Master Books Tribe, welcome to Thursday. Hope you're having a good one. It's beautiful here in northwest Arkansas. I think it's cooled down a little bit, so that's kind of nice. Liking that. Hey, so teaching tips. Good to see you, Sarah Beth, Desiree, Caitlin, Julie, Laura, Miss Jess. Hope things are going well. Hey, if you're watching, be sure to let me know that you're watching and just tag in somewhere. And Julia says, ready to hear about this marshmallow business. Yeah, that's good. I'm curious to know how many people looked up Marshmallow Study when I posted. So the Marshmallow Study, what is it? In the 60s, 70s, it's called the Stanford Marshmallow Study. Professor Michel took 32 children, 16 boys, 16 girls, and he put them in the room with a marshmallow, and he said, if you can wait until I come back, you can have the one marshmallow now, but if you can wait until I come back, I'm going to go out of the room and get another marshmallow. If you can wait, I'm going to give you 2 marshmallows. And so he would leave them there with that one marshmallow, walk out of the room for 15 minutes, and see how many of the kids ate the marshmallow. And 2/3 of the children ate the marshmallow. They couldn't wait. They didn't have the self-control. The average age was about 4. They were like 3.5 to 5.5 years old. And so 2/3 of the kids ate the marshmallow. So it was interesting to see, watch kids' responses. The kids that didn't eat the marshmallow, they distracted themselves, sang songs. If you've ever seen any of they've duplicated the study a couple times, different ones, and the kids will lick it, they'll sniff it, they'll turn away from it, like they'll torture themselves not to eat the marshmallow. Well, it did go to show that the reward isn't enough. Like, there had to be something else to motivate, right? Because if you're going to get double the marshmallows, if you could just wait a few minutes, why would you need to eat the one? But just having that trigger there of a marshmallow and it sitting there was more than what a lot of the kids could handle. What was fascinating is they came back 20 years later and they studied the kids, or I think it was 15 years later, and they looked at the kids. And of the 1/3 of the kids who could actually wait for the marshmallow, they were far more successful than the group that, overwhelmingly, than the group that didn't, the ones who gave in and ate the one marshmallow. And so the study concluded that self-control equals success. We would also call it executive function, that the ability to wait actually helps. So hello to Teresa, Hallie, Ellen, is it Ellen, Deborah, Jennifer, Full Armor Academy, K14, and Tabby. Hey, Tabby. So kids who at a young age exhibited the ability to have some high executive function and self-control, they said later on in life will be much more successful. It's a predictor of future success. Now, since that time, studies have debunked that a little bit and said there's a lot of factors that go into that, and just because a child doesn't eat a marshmallow when they're 4 years old, or eats a marshmallow when they're 4 years old, doesn't necessarily predict their outcomes. A lot can go into that. If there's scarcity in the home, if there's just so many different things can go into that. But recently there was a doctor, Sabine DeBow, who played on the study a little bit. And what she did was she took the marshmallows and she came in and she had an orange t-shirt and a green t-shirt. And so to one of the groups, she gave them an orange t-shirt and she said, the people who have orange t-shirts didn't wait as long for the marshmallow. To the group who was wearing a green t-shirt, she'd give them a green t-shirt and she'd say, here, you're part of the green team, here's your shirt. Just so you know, the people who wore green tended to wait longer and got the second marshmallow. And what she found was, overwhelmingly, the children who had the green t-shirt who were told that her groups waited. and she would switch colors and test it, and it worked the opposite way. So she didn't conclude that just people who wear green shirts can wait. It was actually people who were told that the group that they've been put with has more willpower, exhibited more willpower. Pretty fascinating, isn't it? And so what? Then she said, here are some pictures of some kids. This would be a kid who would be like on the green team. He waited, and this would be a kid who didn't wait as well. Which kid do you think you'd rather be friends with? And overwhelmingly, they identified with the kids in their group. If it was a child who there was a definite draw to people that they had been told they were like, and people that behaved the way that they were part of the team that behaves that way. What an interesting thing that at a young age, a child's ability to have self-control and move their behavior in a certain way had something to do with the fact that they were told, if you wear a green shirt and your team green, you behave this way, and it actually worked. Now, I'm big on growth hacking. I wouldn't say that I have, this is newer to me as I'm studying development and the brain and all of these things, but it's something that we could certainly test, and I don't believe we would harm our children at all. So I'm going to encourage you to think about the messaging. Number one would be the messaging that you give to your children, right? Like can we say to a child, I'll use Jess Gillenwater as an example. Can you say to your children, hey, you're a Gillenwater. Gillenwaters are tough. We don't do that, right? We do that type of stuff all the time. But can you say, Gillenwaters are problem solvers. Like, they've been problem solvers for years. When something presents itself, what they do is dig deep and solve the problems. That's what it means to be a Gillenwater. Started with great grandpappy, and it's gone that way all the way down through the line. But you're a Gillenwater, and that's what Gillenwaters do. We solve problems. And begin to identify. Like, when we came from Western New York, you would hear, this is what it's like to be a New Yorker, right? Now that we've moved south, this is what it's like to be a Southerner. There's certain things that we all of a sudden can identify with, and we do this all the time. We buy shirts and hats and coats that identify with a group, and then say, this is who we are. This is how we behave. You know, when we're in Western New York, we're Buffalo Bills fans. You're part of the Bills Mafia. Everybody knows the Bills Mafia, the way that Bills fans conduct themselves, their loyalty. And you're told, this is who we are. This is how we behave. Well, one of my pet peeves, especially when it came to pastoring, was sometimes there are things that people will do that they'll like identify a group. One of my pet peeves is the term red-blooded American male, which somehow gives an American male some kind of license or an excuse for behavior in a certain way. We all can do that, right? I mean, if I can identify myself as a hot mess, or then maybe hot messes are able to be emotionally out of control a little bit, but it's not as bad because Instagram makes hot messes acceptable. And so we can identify with a group, and suddenly our behavior, does it move a little bit like the Marshmallow Study, where, oh, I'm a green shirt now, so I have self-control. I can behave this way or move in this direction, or this is my character, or who I am, because I can identify with this. We do it all the time with teenagers. I would never accept it with my teenagers. I feel very honored that my teenagers never identified as a traditional teenagers, because that was never what we accepted. Yes, teenagers are different. Their brains are developing different. They move more towards the reward side than towards the thinking side of their brain. But that doesn't mean that we have to accept that they're out of control. My teenagers were exceptional human beings, and I believed it 100%, and so did they, because we've always told them, you're not like other teenagers. Your teenagers, you just aren't that way. Like, you have a special purpose in life, and you are a part of a chosen people, and God has set you apart. And because you're set apart, you just don't act that way. Like, it's just not who we are. And I was amazed to see that they accepted that. So my first question is, with our kids, even with homeschooling, can we begin to set the messaging that homeschoolers get things done. Homeschoolers are blessed. Homeschoolers, traditionally, if you look at the studies, it's true, homeschoolers do better in life. They do better socially. So, hey, you're a homeschooler. I would expect you to do better. Right? I would expect you to do better in relationships, because studies have proven that homeschoolers have better social skills. All right, homeschoolers tend to be more driven and focused and all of these things, and begin to lay a little bit of messaging that helps us identify with a peer group that's truth. I don't think we have to lie to our kids. In fact, we shouldn't lie to our kids. But I think we can begin creating messaging that helps our children identify with a group that identifies that is successful. Right? You're a homeschooler. You're not afraid of challenges. You're a homeschooler. We go outside the walls. You're a homeschooler. Learning is for life. It's not just to learn to pass a test, because that's the way homeschoolers roll. You can apply this even with your children. That it's not with your family, right? This is who we are. We're the Gillenwaters. We get things done. We solve problems. We're good academically. Be careful, because if we start to say, well, we don't do the best in school, we're not the sharpest knives in the drawer, we're whatever, we begin putting them in categories. And like this study shows, when they identify with a category, they actually move in that direction. Their executive function actually moves in the direction that we categorize them. Why their peer group is so important, yes. Why we are the average of the 5 people we surround ourselves with, yes. These are some of the reasons that we want to make sure that the people we're around, the people our children are around, are causing us to grow, right, rather than to lower our standards. But we certainly can play a part with our children, especially at a very young age, to be very careful of the words we speak, because they're beginning to try to identify, who am I, where do I belong, who is my group, right? Who's my tribe, and how does my tribe behave? And so we can begin helping them understand, this is who your tribe is, this is how our tribe behaves. We look out for each other. Our tribe, just rolls different because we're a chosen and set apart people for a purpose. Okay, so number 1 is to be careful how we identify our kids, and also to begin creating messaging to help our children succeed. Number 2 that I would ask would be, what messaging do you currently believe? Where somebody spoke something and said, this is who you are as a person. This is the shirt you wear. This is the tribe you belong to. Because a lot of times we don't even really recognize the fact that, hey, I'm here because I'm wearing a green shirt. Or I'm here because they told me I wear orange shirts, and people who wear orange shirts aren't as self-controlled, or don't do as well in a certain subject. Or maybe we're not good in relationships. We tend to be bullheaded and stubborn, or whatever. What messaging do we believe that maybe could be like a limiting belief? I know Jessica talked about it earlier this week, that one of the things I talk about is limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are like the filters that we see the world through. And when we're young, it's very difficult, because when people speak some things in ignorance, and we're young, we don't have the ability to filter that. Just because somebody puts an orange shirt on me doesn't mean I'm better at not eating a marshmallow or eating marshmallows, right? That has nothing to do with it. But when I'm young, I can accept, oh, that's truth. I wear an orange shirt, so I'm not good at not eating marshmallows. So doing an inventory for yourself and saying, hey, what areas am I listening to? What messaging is there that has identified me that isn't even really truth? Maybe I actually could have been good at math. I just never believed I was, because I was told people like me aren't good at math, or maybe I wasn't athletic because people had said you aren't athletic because I was developing as a child and wasn't quite where I was supposed to be, and so I just accepted that I'm not athletic or I don't have coordination. I mean, there's so many areas in our lives. We see it a lot. They almost become self-fulfilling prophecies, if you will, when we speak something like that for our children and they identify with it. And I thought, how awesome to have a study that was done that reinforces what we know, that there's power in the words that we speak, right? Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and we have the ability to bless and we have the ability to curse. And it's so important when we're speaking with our kids, not even just speaking to our kids, but speaking in earshot of our kids, that we're not giving them groups to identify with that we don't want them to identify with that isn't truth. And I can remember from a very young age being identified as an accident and unwanted. Well, that carries through for a lot of years until you suddenly realize you have to do some work, right? To say, what's the messaging I believe and how is that affecting my life? And so as you begin to do the work and understanding what's the messaging you're believing that may or may not be true, then you can be more conscious of the messaging you're passing on to the next generation. Awesome. Well, I hope that is helpful. I wonder, as I'm talking, does anybody feel like, can you identify the messaging? Can you see maybe where there might be things that were said to you or things to your kids where it's like, hey, I can correct that. Like, that's the awesome thing. It's easy enough to say to your kids, you know what? That's not the way it was, or I made a mistake, and correct that and help them work through that messaging a little bit. So, good. So the Marshmallow Study is really interesting. They've proven and debunked it that it's not an indicator. Self-control definitely is. It is a function of success in being able to wait, but it's not the only predictor of success. There's a lot of factors that go into that study, but I did find the other being categorized is really neat. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought, something to growth hack with in your parenting and test and see if maybe you can identify even a small area where you just let your kids know that we care about the quality of our work, right? We're Wiersmas. Wiersmas care about a good job, a job well done. That's what Wiersmas do. Job well done. That's who we are. So, Jess, tell my friend Brittany, hi for me. I will absolutely do that. She actually asks about you often, so I will. Let's see, Desiree, it's a good twist on the Marshmallow Study. I think so. She's doing well. Yep. It's always fun going. I guess most people went west for adventure. She went east, and gets to face all those things in life we hope to shield our children from, but is doing well. So awesome. Well, guys, you have a great weekend, and hope this was a blessing, and we will talk to you next week. God bless you guys.